Okay, so this is going to be a workflow for creating a feather. I'm gonna go into my mind, switch to the top view. So in order to create my feather, what I'll start with is actually creating some curves, and I will use the pen tool. So it's a good idea to get a bit of a reference going, just to get an idea of what kind of feathers are we going for. So I'll go in and search for, let's say, I'm thinking something relatively generic, right? Something along these lines. Wonderful. So if we're looking at this feather, we can see that one side is slightly longer than the other. We have a split in the curves. So let's make that happen, right? So this is going to be the tip. And I'm using this one. I like this one a lot. But I think we should have like 3 or 4 different ones, right? So my number 2. And then they just get pretty repetitive. And here we can have a split. Thinking something like this will do for one side. And then for the other side, we have something like this. Maybe something like this. Okay, so let's make that happen. So what we'll do is we'll rebuild all of those. And I'm gonna keep it linear so I can see what I'm doing. So 22 doesn't work. Let's try 24 or 23, 4, 5. Wonderful. Ish. So now I'm ready to go in and start smoothing them. I'm actually gonna open up Tuber just so I can already get my tubes going. Not tubes, but just to get my smooth going. And I'll select a whole bunch of those and I'll smooth them out as I go. So component mode, then I can smooth them here, here, and do the same thing. So as you can see, it's quite easy to get those smoothed out. Okay, now I'll get a hair grabber so I can get those filled. So at this point, I can select them. So here, I'll get from here to here and create a fill of 12 in between. So let's take a look here at the reference. Actually, it's going to be more like, let's do 22 in betweens. Wonderful. Then here to here, I'll do, let's keep it going. Actually, no, let's do like 16. Yeah, from here to here, let's do another 16. From here to here, let's do another 16. And then we can do the same thing here. Actually, I'm just gonna do this. And then here I'll do maybe 12 for all of this. That's about right. All right, so now I'm ready to do a bit of adjustments. So what I can do now is basically select maybe like a CV and switch my soft selection from surface to global. And then I can adjust all of those curves is one object. So I'm basically sculpting on CVs. Okay. So I'm gonna switch my soft selection back to surface. And I'm not gonna, okay, there we go. And I'm not going to like get this to be perfect by any means, but if I need to, I can also do something like deform, and then I can go make a lattice. And get this lattice deformed as well. And I can create something like this. And then I can kill history on all of this. Now, the problem here, if I want to introduce a little bit of randomness to those shapes, it's I can't really use hair grabber for that, but what I can do is I can create tubes with tuber, and then I can introduce some randomness to those. So let's do that. So I'll select a whole bunch of curves here, and I will go in, and it actually might be a good idea to deform these guys as well, right? To actually go here, select this, get a global soft selection, just get this to conform a little bit better. Right, so let's say we have a feather that we're happy with. Now I can select all of this and I can tube it. So let's do that. It's gonna take a while, so I'm just gonna pause real quick. Okay, so honestly, it didn't even take that long. There's our outline, so we can move it around. And you can see it's getting quite slow because we have so many tubes here, but not that slow. Keep changing the scale until we get closer to what we want. And we can change the background with Alt B to get a better idea of what we're doing. Okay, so we have something like this. Now we can hide our object. So we can select screen space and hide it. Now we can cancel our soft selection mode, put it back on surface. And now we can select our extracted geometry. And what did I want to do? Oh yeah, I wanted to pinch it. So I'm gonna go to the extrude, I'm gonna go to scale, lower it to be like 0.1 or something. And that way, if we look at our reference, it gets pretty thin at the ends. It's the 0.1. Awesome. Now we're ready to select our geometry, duplicate it outside of our folder structure, and then we can select our tuber folders, group them, call this tuber, select this, group this, call this feather, tuber we can hide, feather we can keep. Now when it comes to the feather, next thing we can have, if we want to introduce a little bit of randomness, and you could do clearly a better job at the spacing, so it's nice and uniform. I think this spacing works better than this. So what I can do here is opening up hair grabber. I can create individual pivot points for these tubes. The thing is, these tubes are all open, which means, and I think what we might have to do is actually select all of our tubes, select the UV editor, and flip them the other way around. So I'm just gonna hold J and flip them the other way around. There we go. And just maybe get them smaller and put them in the origin. Okay, cool. Now I can go in here again, and I'm doing it only on portion of the selection because I don't want to waste too much time on waiting for things. So there's my pivot point, and now what I can do is I can actually, yeah, that's pretty cool. And I can select them. I can randomize the rotation a little bit. So I can select them like this, and then go in here, and maybe instead of global factor of 0.9, let's do like 0.03, and let's try this again. There we go, that's a little bit better. Try it again. A little bit too much. Let's try this again. Something like that, maybe even more. Something like that. So I can do the same for the rest of them. So set pivot point, it doesn't take too long. It's not that many tubes anyway. Like the tools are not extremely fast, but they're fast enough for this. Okay, now I can actually create a bit more randomness. Okay. And another thing we might want to do is actually elevate the roots of these guys a little bit higher. And I'll show you how to do that. So in this case, I'll show you on a cutout. What we can do is select a certain part, certain area of them, and pull it up, right? And we can do it for the whole side. We can select all of those, select an area closer to the beginning, we can pull it up. And that way we'll have a little bit more interesting lighting going on there. We can, of course, fill the gaps if we need to. Right, so we can select 1, 2. I wonder if I select all of them like this and do this. It's a little bit more random, yeah. So what I need to do is select them one by one. And then I can fill the gaps in between them if I need to. So that's the annoying way of getting that done, right? Then you might want to actually leave some gaps. And that way you can have a much more hands-on approach on your selection. Here we can set a pivot point, so it's the beginning. Then randomize them a little bit. We can just randomize the rotation. We don't necessarily want to move them. So move is deactivated, rotate is only activated. So let's try this. It's a little bit better. And then maybe I just want to rotate them on one axis. So that I want to check which axis I want it to be. So I just want it to be on the y-axis. And I'm actually going to increase it a little bit more. Maybe the x-axis. There we go. Now they're moving up and down. That's what I wanted. So for this, oh, wrong button. So randomize. And then maybe let's try the y-axis. It starts to look a little bit better. And then maybe between this and this, I can put another one. Make sure that my pivot point is there. Make it a bit smaller. This and this. Another one. Smaller. This and this. Maybe 2 or 3. Smaller. There. And we're starting to get something that looks very much like a nice looking feather. So I'm not gonna get this thing into full completion, but clearly you can imagine the next thing to do would be to create a central curve. So it's gonna come in here and get it from here to here to here and then to here and then to here. So I'm gonna leave it like this. I don't like what I'm getting here. I'm gonna rebuild it. And I'm gonna adjust it a bit more. And then when I'm done, I'm going to create another tube. So let's select this guy, create a tube, get the screen space to show, and scale it down. Scale it up, and scale it down again. Something like that. Now we can select this, duplicate, get it out of the structure, hide tuber again, and now we have the main shaft of the feather. We can move it, rotate it, maybe scale it even higher. Oh, and I forgot to make it thinner. So I'll get rid of this guy, get tuber showing again. Select this topology, go to the extrude node, get the scale to 0.2. Oh, and I need to flip direction. So maybe I can select my actual curve. Let's see where it is. There it is. So I'll select the actual curve and I'll reverse it. So I'll go curves, reverse direction, and then I'm gonna get rid of the geo. I'm gonna get rid of the outline, and then select the curve and make it again. Or not. Oh yeah, I need to get it out of the structure. Okay, there we go. Okay, and now make this smaller again. Maybe something like this. And then try and make it get thinner under the extrude node. So scale 0. Let's do 15. Wonderful. Now I can duplicate it, get it out of the structure. Tuber. Move those points a bit lower, maybe rotate this initial selection of points. Now I can go in here, maybe close this hole, right? Select, maybe close the whole thing actually. So to vertices, merge vertices. Now I have, when I double click, it only selects this. Then complex bridge, auto surface, and then merge. Wonderful. And then there's also the other side, but I don't think it's a big deal. We can also, that's another way to close holes. We can select this, fill hole, select this, poke face, And then, uh, see, yeah, I don't have the thing here, but I still have a script that would get rid of those secondary edges. Yeah, so that's fine. I can even like pull this one out a bit. Okay, cool. So there's our feather. Remember that we can always do stuff like this, right? And then here we actually can randomize it a little bit better. So I'm gonna get in here, set some pivot points, rotate it a bit. That looks much better. Actually, not better. It'd be significantly better if we do this. Wonderful. Okay. And yeah, we can have a bit more plumage here, right? So we can do something like this. Maybe not move. Oh yeah, I need to set pivot. Oops. There we go. And then we can do something like this. Make sure we have pivot points. You see what I'm doing here, right? You see where I'm getting with this. And then again, we can modify this with a deformer. Maybe a lattice. Something like this. Same for this, guys, right? Like we can fix all of the issues here with a bunch of lattices. Okay, so once we have our feather, we want to apply some sort of shading to that feather. So we can create a couple of sets of UVs. So right now we have UVs that go along the length. I think I have some sort of a curve over here. Just gonna get rid of those guys. Yeah, but that's the basic creation for the feather, and then when we're done, we can use the UVs that we have currently, right? Remember, we have this kind of UV. There we go. So we can use this UV set to get a gradient going from bottom to top. So if I select all of these guys and I go and I assign new material, let's make it like Lambert for now. And then if I come into my Lambert, instead of a color, I can attach here a ramp, just to give you an idea of what you can do with this, right? And we can actually set a ramp and make a bit of a transition of different colors here. Right, and we can have a bit of a transition going on. Um, right? And we can have a bit of a transition going on, and we can have this as a starter, and then we can create a secondary UV map, sorry, a UV tile. So if I do this and I make sure that everything is in our feather folder, there's my feather. Now I can duplicate it. This is gonna be my merged feather, so I'm combining everything together. That's my feather number 2, and here I can create under my UVs, I can create a new UV set, and this is gonna be paint or something, and this is going to be basically a front projection. So I will go into my UV editor, and I would create planar, and then I can rotate this. Whoops. Y-axis, something like this. Then you go to your UV editor. That's what you get. So that's basically perfect, because now you'll have your initial gradients following the length of your feather stripes, and then you'll have your secondary UV map or UV set to be able to come in and paint on it. Right, like this. And you don't have to unfold anything. This is, the feather is like a fairly flat object, so we're fine with having, it very planar from top to bottom. So yeah, that's the workflow.